Yet another week has gone by, and so it is once again time for The Truth in a Nutshell, where you get an hour's worth of truth in 10 minutes flat. I am Michaqel Boldea, your host, and today I want to talk about a topic that I know will raise the ire of some. Today we're going to talk about self, and the idea that a Christian's true purpose is not righteousness or holiness unto God, but rather to be positively positive and affect those around them with their positive attitude. Concerning the self, a man by the name of John James once wrote, "Self is the most subtle, the most stubborn, the most tenacious foe with which grace has to contend in the soul of the believer. Self lives and works and fights when many other corruptions are mortified. Self is the last stronghold, the very citadel of Satan in the heart, which is reduced to the obedience of faith." If not for the pulpit in the middle of the platform, one would confuse many a church service today with the latest self-help positive affirmation seminar. The bright lights, the gleaming smile, the carefully chosen and non-confrontational words preparing the audience for the next installment of yet another positive self-image seminar in what has become an unending marathon of getting you to love yourself and constantly tell yourself that you're all right, all is well. Positivism sells, and as long as we concentrate more on the exterior than the interior, as long as our focus is the flesh rather than the spirit, men will applaud with great jubilation. Never mind the fact that our conscience continually cries out, condemning the duplicity in our hearts. Never mind the fact that sin has entrenched itself in the midst of many a congregation unchallenged. Never mind the fact that for many a year we have been wandering in a spiritual desert, absent of the refreshing waters of the Holy Spirit. Never mind all that. Just be positive. Think positive and act positive. From the ever popular, if you can think it, you can be it, to the more unrealistic, have a vision of yourself and grow into that vision, to the outright foolishness of looking in the mirror and repeating the mantra, "I am worth it, I deserve it, I am strong and I belong." It seems that the church is no longer a place to learn of Christ and be taught mortification of the flesh, but rather a place where we're made to feel good about ourselves. A place where the flesh is given center stage and pandered to as though it were more important than spiritual growth. The message of being positively positive and self-reliant is sweeping the nation. And the idea that in our own strength and in and of ourselves we're nothing and can do nothing has been replaced with the doctrine of positive thinking and positive affirmation. We may be singing the song, "It's all about Jesus," but the message of the hour is that it's all about us. "You can do it" is the slogan that is being boisterously cheered as the church suffers defeat after defeat, and sin corrupts even those we hold in the highest esteem. Because we think so highly of ourselves, we're unwilling to face the true measure of our impotence, all the while deceiving ourselves into believing that it is by our might and by our power and not by the Spirit of the living God that we're able to overcome. Many a soul starts out with the best of intentions, believing in their hearts that they can do on their own what can only be done by the Spirit of God. Trusting in themselves, they're quickly overrun and overcome by doubt, duplicity, and even sin. Because when it comes down to it, when we're called upon to stand, to make a sacrifice, if we're not sanctified and born of the Spirit, our own flesh will betray us. We all know Apostle Peter, the man whom Christ referred to as the rock upon which he would build his church. What some have conveniently dismissed is that before Peter was the rock, before he was infused with the power of the Holy Spirit, before his transformation was complete, He exuded no rock-like qualities. And though in his mind and heart he believed he was ready to be steadfast and uncompromising, to go to prison and even to death for Christ, his flesh would not allow him to follow through on his promise when the time came. Luke 22, verse 33 says, "But he," meaning Peter, "said to him, 'Lord, I am ready to go with you both to prison and to death.'" These were the words of Peter shortly before denying Christ 3 times. Not before men of great esteem, not before magistrates or generals, but before a servant girl. I don't think anyone believes that Peter would intentionally lie to Christ, nor do I think anyone believes he made that statement that he was ready to go to prison and even to death simply to seem more steadfast and faithful than the rest of the apostles. I do believe, as should we all, that Peter was sincere and he had the best of intentions, but as yet Peter had not been freed from the fear of men, nor had he escaped the prison of self. Peter had not been born again, sanctified, and consecrated. He had good intentions, but absent the power of God in one's life, good intentions are worthless. After the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, we see a new Peter, one who was freed from the fear of men and became bold as a lion, standing before not merely a servant girl, but before the Sanhedrin, proclaiming Christ and Christ alone. The point of this program, why I felt I needed to speak about it, is to reconfirm a truth that has been long abandoned in the house of God. And due to the fact that we have abandoned this truth, many are being overcome rather than being overcomers. That long deserted truth is that without the transformation, we are ineffective. Without the Holy Spirit in us, making us greater than all that we are or ever hope to be, though good intentions may abound, though we may have mastered positivism, we will not be able to stand in the hour when we're called to stand. You see, the weakness of today's modern Christian is that we're living the pre-Pentecost experience, able to serve only in times of ease and comfort, unwilling to sacrifice, to draw the line in the sand, to be uncompromising soldiers that God is calling for today. We're able to be on the front lines only when there is no enemy, to be a Christian only when surrounded by other believers. We have reversed the roles of spirit and flesh, assigning more value to how the flesh feels, keeping it comfortable enough even though it's detrimental to the spirit. There is only one remedy for the general spiritual condition, the apathy and the duplicity that we're witnessing, and that is to be that which God called us to be in the first place. True followers of Christ, wholly consecrated unto God, pure of heart, willing to live, willing to die, willing to suffer, and to be persecuted for the cause of Christ. We must be willing to once more be perceived as fools in the eyes of the world, to suffer loss for the cause, and to use the weapons of our warfare empowered and emboldened by the Spirit living in us to do battle against sin and the enemy's devices. We must stand, not in our own strength, lean not on our own understanding, and strive not for our own agenda, but once more truly surrender to Christ and faithfully submit ourselves, that He may guide us, use us, and empower us. The time is upon us, dear friends, when just sitting on the sidelines just won't do, and being a half-committed Christian just won't cut it. May God bless you. May He guide you, may He equip you, and may He strengthen you. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time, this has been The Truth in a Nutshell.